We continue now with our coverage around the Lusikisiki massacre that left 18 family members dead last Friday. Let's take you live now to Newzroom Afrika anchor Vuyo Mvoko, who is tracking that story from the community where that horrific incident unfolded. Vuyo, there does seem to be, just from the people we've been speaking to, the families that have been affected by this mass killing, there seems to be some kind of lag in communication with various government and police officials and the families.
That's what seems to be the case, Michelle, because where we were at the other house, there was, the family was ready to leave. The taxis had been organized to take them to the venue of that meeting between officials, their political principals, the municipality, and of course, representatives of the families that are involved in this tragedy. But somehow there has been a bit of a challenge there, it would seem, because shortly after we filmed them getting onto the taxis, minutes later, they came back again to say, no, they're not going there. They will wait for the Premier to come to the households and meet them there, which customarily, or shall I say, people are used to things being done that way, that if a family has a bereavement, you go to their home or homestead, to pass your condolences, pay your respect, and then you will have meetings thereafter. But for some reason, there was that confusion. Hopefully, it's not a big thing. But the people you are seeing behind me are community members who want to be part of the conversation as well. Because remember, it's as much about your Minister of Police, your Premier, passing their condolences, paying their respects, as it is a kind of community meeting, if you like. This is what happened yesterday when the MEC for Community Safety also arrived. People used the opportunity to air their grievances, to also speak their hearts, but to talk about, of course, what has brought all of us here, which is the tragedy that happened early hours of Saturday, the killing of those people, which, as we know by now from what we've been reporting from here, what we've been hearing from our community members, what we've been hearing from the police themselves, the crime rate is very high. These incidents are really not rare. Yes, certainly not to the scale that this particular one is. But a couple of months ago, a story we've been told over and over again over the past couple of days, at a tavern not too far from here, someone walked into the shebeen, mowed down a number of people, and still no one has been held responsible for that particular matter. Every now and again, a person dies, a person gets shot at, they die, and the culprits are rarely, if ever, found. Something we put, of course, to the police yesterday, which they said was the reason they have decided that they are not only focusing on this particular case, this massacre, they are also looking back at a number of cases that have been resolved to see why those cases have not been cracked. And they're trying to see if there's a pattern. And the Deputy Commissioner, National Commissioner of Police saying they've brought teams with skills who are going to peruse these cases and see where exactly the problem is, because part of the problem is that the reason people aren't coming forward to report people or criminals that they may know is because they fear reprisals. They fear that these people will come back to them because they simply, others going to the extent of saying they don't even trust, the police. So the people you're seeing behind me want to be part of the conversation with the Minister of Police, with the Premier and their officials, to talk about what can be done to prevent something like we are talking about now from happening again.
Absolutely, Vuyo. It's the issue here at play is that this is not a photo opportunity for these families. This is the worst time in their lives. It's not a matter of protocol. I can't think of anything worse than an ordeal like this and then having to travel days later to meet a police minister or a premier or a government official?
Yes, they want to have that audience. And, and again, I mean, there's something observed in the little time people are being reasonable. People, the things that they say actually make sense. And they're not angry. Yes, they're grieving. They're sad that something like this could happen, to members of their community. But when you listen to the conversations, they talk about the high crime rate being, of course, everyone is speculating about sources, others saying, but we do have a drug problem. We do have an alcohol abuse problem. We do have high unemployment. You saw the one member of the family we spoke to only a couple of hours ago saying, we understand also that police are under-resourced and they may not have the training that will make it easy, for them to crack these kinds of cases, because you're dealing with faceless people using illegal arms in most instances, and they come by night and no one, really sees them. You hear a noise, you hear, shootings, but you never know who's really behind it. So maybe it's a question of resources. Maybe it's a question of these police not trained in the kind of, or not so familiar with the source, but also how these people, the modus operandi of these people who came to kill by night. And they understand, but of course that's not to say they are going to leave it there. They want a solution because they want this stopped. They want this never to happen again, but they're stuck, as I suppose are the police, as to, how to best deal with this, with these criminals. How do you get them? Where do you even find them? But the point I'm really making is that this doesn't come from a very angry, space. They are saying what they are saying, feeling that the police too may be having challenges in how they are dealing with this problem. But of course, the problem has to be solved, and that's really the attitude here. So it's a shocked community. They are pained by what has happened here. Everyone, speaks with. They're very. It's a somber mood that is prevailing in this community. But at the same time, they are firm about what it is they want, which is an end to the deaths that they have been seeing over time. And as I say, also understand that there could well be problems that are making or issues that are making it difficult for police to be to crack these cases.
Yeah. South Africans, as we know, Vuyo, have incredibly short memories. Unfortunately, our crime rate needs us to do exactly that. Days will pass and then we'll move on to the next tragedy, which is an incredibly cynical way of looking at things. But I imagine that's on this community's mind as well. Officials arrive on the scene in the days after a tragedy of this nature, and then things move on and there's little traction. That certainly has been the case for many other really shocking incidents that have happened not only in the Eastern Cape, but around the country. The point is that the focus needs to stay on these challenges that you talk about: drugs, alcohol, unemployment. There are other policy issues as well, insofar as gun reform is concerned in South Africa.
And that's pretty much what the family was saying earlier. By the way, it's the same family whose members you saw walking to those minibuses earlier, and then only to come back not having spoken to your premier and to your minister of police. He was so measured. He was saying, look, this is our family that we're talking about. We've lost young people. There's only 2 youngsters left in that home. Says it has happened. It's happened to us now. We are obviously very pained, but we should always remember that this is a problem we're seeing in our country throughout. We're talking about high crime levels every day. So we shouldn't lose focus. Yes, we are pained. Yes, we would like the perpetrators of this particular crime to be brought to book. But we shouldn't forget that this is a problem affecting millions of South Africans every day. And that is where our focus should be. Well, in the hope, of course, that the principals who have, or political principals who have descended here will take that to their own principals to say, don't lose focus. Focus on a big issue that affects all South Africans, even though it may be us or our family that is affected currently. So people do have a sense of the big picture, and that's where they believe the focus of those who have decided to to be politicians, to form part of running our lives on a daily basis, that's where they should focus. And so they're not being selfish, about it, or thinking only about themselves and their families. Even in this time of tragedy, to hear that elder, saying, no, please remember that every day lots and lots of South Africans find themselves in this situation, and that's where we need to focus on.
Vuyo Mvoko, live to us there from Gobazana village in Lusikisiki. Thanks very much indeed for that update. And of course, we continue to keep our focus on the story. The police minister